Meeting. Do we, okay. Yes, let's make sure we have closed captions on these meetings. But when looking at today, want to really highlight the significance of the Joint Assembly before I even go into the agenda. When looking at the Joint Assembly, no, I shouldn't say obviously, the Joint Assembly sits between the board as well as the Community Council. And so that's why if you're looking at some of our folks, when we actually go through some of the introductions, you have your committee leads as well as designees from our board. And so not only is this a body that has a lot of decision-making power, but also can help us give us some additional strategic oversight as we think about some of these recommendations that we're vetting. And so when looking at this agenda, obviously you want to talk a little bit about some welcomes and introductions. I will pause to do that. Just honestly, just kind of going down the list. In addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about Connect Through and 3, though I think the majority of you all are well aware of what Connect Through and 3 is due to you all joining our community conversations, but wanting to really earmark some time to get into the actual structure of the Joint Assembly while talking about the responsibilities that this body has unique power to utilize. In addition, wanting to get everybody's eyes on the charter. This is something where we are taking that pretty seriously and want to make sure everyone's aware of the responsibilities outlined in that charter. And then, I would say a personal favorite of mine. It's not akin to an Easter or Thanksgiving. However, Digital Inclusion Week. And really wanted to talk about that because through the work done through the committees, we've been able to identify an actual budget line item that we are actually going to be able to vote on today as it relates to Digital Inclusion Week. And then obviously wrapping up with talking about some of the relevant resources and empowering you all with how we move forward. I know that we allocated a significant amount of time for this. So again, I can't thank folks enough for that piece and carving out your time for this very important work. So I think that I will actually stop here and actually go through some introductions. And so the popcorn style just takes too long. I'm sorry. I know that like people like doing it. It just takes too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the participant list and I'm just going to go down that list and I'm just going to ask as I call on you, if you could, introduce yourself by way of just explaining your title and maybe your organization, your title. And if you want to share something else, I'm not going to say, hey, you can't, but above all, organization and title. So again, for me, Josh Redmond, Director of Digital Inclusion for the City of Detroit. I'm really happy that you all are all on. The next one on the list is Connect Through and 3 Info, which is Jordan. So Jordan, you can introduce yourself, and then Brady, you're next after Jordan.
Hi, this is Jordan Felvey. I am the Program Manager for Connect Through and 3, and I'm the Manager of Digital Equity and Inclusion at United Way for Southeastern Michigan.
Hi, I'm Brady. I'm with Blackpool. We just submitted a suggestion for 5G maintenance, and I go to University of Michigan.
Thank you, Brady. Jillian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jillian Blackwell. My day job, I'm a senior business manager for Amazon, and I am a chair member for policy advocacy and ecosystem for Connect Through and 3.
Thank you, Jillian, for joining. Shannon, I believe you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Doolin. I serve as an external affairs manager for Comcast in Metro Detroit. Looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Shannon. Whoever is using human IT.
Oh.
That's not me.
Yeah, well, there's a human IT on the call, but
Is it
sure,
Jennifer?
go ahead, Harvey. Go ahead. You're already on the screen.
That's okay. Harvey Hollins. I'm the manager for strategic partnerships with Human IT, and I manage the device and connectivity committee, who is chaired by David Unby.
All right. Thank you, Harvey. Alex Simpson.
Sorry, guys, I was in the middle of my lunch here. But Alex Simpson, I'm an attorney at Microsoft. I want to say, hey, Jillian. Jillian used to be at Microsoft, guys, and really got me involved in a lot of the engagements in the community. So really happy to see her here. But looking forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for joining us. Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. I am the Director of Digital Equity and Inclusion Initiatives at United Way. Happy to be here.
Okay, Autumn.
Good afternoon, Autumn Evans, Deputy Director of Digital Inclusion for the City of Detroit. I also manage the Policy, Advocacy, and Ecosystem Committee and Work Group within Connect Through and 3.
Okay, David. No, David Luya. Sorry, we're gonna get you. Yeah, I realize that.
Yeah, no worries. David Luya here, work with United Way and Connect 313 as project manager. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. David Underwood.
Good afternoon, everyone. David Underwood. I am actually the managing director of Detroit Community Care Network, where I'm leading the work to connect communities to healthcare for better healthcare outcomes for our community. And I'm a recent retiree, and I am chair of the Devices and Connectivity Committee.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Erica.
Sorry, guys. Erica Swilly, I'm the VP of Community and Social Responsibility for the Detroit Pistons, and look forward to working with everybody on this, especially on getting Wi-Fi in public spaces, which we are trying to do with Connect 313 and the Knight Foundation.
Thank you for joining us, Erica. Jamie Harris.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamie Harris. I'm the chair of the Special Projects and Shared Resources Committee, and my day job is running a school here in Detroit. I'm the owner and the school director.
Thank you for joining Jamie Harris and Jamie Danzig.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Danzig. I am the director of our education and employment work out of the Rocket Community Fund. I am also your joint assembly liaison to the management team.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, this list keeps shifting up and down. So if I skip you, this is not personal. Margaret Allen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret Allen, Executive Director at the Urban Alliance and also Chair of the Structure and Operations Committee.
Thank you, Margaret. Micah.
Hello, everyone. I am the Digital Equity and Inclusion Program Manager at the Rocket Community Fund, and I also serve as the Community Manager for Connect 313 and the Management Team Lead for the Special Projects and Shared Resources Committee.
Okay, thank you, Micah. Q.
Hi, I'm Q, Kemisha Goss, Librarian at Large, and the Digital Literacy Subject Matter Expert for Connect 313, as well as the Management Lead for the Digital Literacy and Upskilling Committee.
Okay, did I get everybody? All right, I'm gonna assume so, and if I didn't, my sincere apologies. So, all right, now that we've got the introductions out of the way, wanting to, yeah, we can go to the next slide. Look a little bit into, for those who are not aware, Connect 313 are core founding members, Microsoft, Rocket Mortgage, the Rocket Community Fund, City of Detroit, United Way for Southeast Michigan. Ultimately, our goal is not necessarily, yes, making us a national model for digital inclusion, but really putting it in place by 2024, the means for all Detroit businesses, residents, communities, any other subgroup that you want to name, empowering them with the appropriate devices, internet connections, technical support for improved learning, employability, and well-being. And when all of our recommendations are being made, I think that it's really important that we keep that piece in mind, that whatever we're doing here has that huge emphasis on empowering folks by 2024. And I think that this is actually a legitimate, reachable goal and attainable mission. From a data and statistics standpoint, a lot of our emphasis on data, you're going to see in our literally fourth word there, 1, 2, 3, maybe fifth. I don't know, I can't count. But data driven, when we're looking at the data driven approach, it's a lot of that because we need to be able to answer the question, are we winning? And winning looks like, are we on the path to a digitally inclusive city? And so a lot of the data that has been framed early on in our interventions looks a lot like, oh, Detroit's one of the least connected cities in the country and blah, blah, blah. And I think that through our work and through our various interventions that we've already been able to achieve, we've been able to move the needle. And through our work around the emergency broadband benefit, we're going to keep moving that needle. But I can't stress enough that from the data-driven standpoint, we want to make sure that everything that we're doing, we're able to then showcase that impact at scale. I can talk a little bit more about that later on, but when we kind of touched on the mission a little bit, but the vision is to ensure every single Detroiter is fully digitally included to take advantage of the digital world and all the opportunity that it brings. And on the culture and value standpoint, placing a high emphasis on community, high emphasis on equity, and definitely one on trust. I can't stress enough, and obviously all of you on the call understand these values and live by these values even outside of the context of Connect 313. But when we're talking about community and technology, trust is a factor, obviously within community itself, but even on the technology standpoint, there's a lot of trust that has to be built for people who have been historically underconnected and unconnected. And I think that as we are looking at the recommendations that are being created and crafted in front of us, they have to have those values in mind. And so I'm not necessarily going to talk much more from a rubric standpoint of how people need to be voting as they see proposals come to this body. But I will say that these values are paramount for us to move this work forward. And if we are losing sight of these values, then it doesn't matter how great a recommendation is. If these values are not in mind, then we're not really going to get to what our mission and vision has us setting out to do. And so I can't stress enough community equity and trust. You'll hear us say on every single one of our call, not every call, but on our larger monthly community conversations and community council calls, us progressing at the speed of trust, us being locally led and expertly informed, us proposing ecosystem-wide solutions so that way everybody can win. A lot of that, again, those are ways that the community can hold us accountable. And for folks who are with us last year, when we were doing a lot of our community sessions, we definitely had residents calling us out when they felt as if we were stepping outside of those values. And so we are saying these values, if you always hear us say them on a lot of these calls, we're saying them because we want people to hold us accountable to them. And so as people are voting or as recommendations are coming to this body, let's just keep these values in mind. Not that you all already are. That's just a review for all of us, I guess. Next slide. And so from a Connect 313 update standpoint, we've been able to stand up a neighborhood technology hub network, specifically through the incredible work of the funding from the Rocket Mortgage Classic that earmarked dollars specifically to Brilliant Detroit. Brilliant Detroit, for those who are unaware, is I guess I'm going to sound biased when I say they're a phenomenal nonprofit, but they're doing phenomenal work, really in line with our values. They have been activating neighborhood technology hubs in every single one of our political districts. This is going to seem a little bit out of order from on your screen, but when looking at the emergency broadband benefit, Brilliant Detroit is actually one of our entities that is taking in residents and walking them through how to sign up for this program. Now, the emergency broadband benefit is a very critical program right now, and not even just in Detroit, nationally speaking. This was the first time that we've seen the federal government provide a governmental subsidy for residents at this scale. For those who are unaware, at a high level, it is a $50 a month subsidy that, quite frankly, many Detroiters can qualify for. The qualifications are very wide. It's all the way down to if you've experienced a significant loss of income due to COVID, due to you losing your job, due to being laid off. If you are receiving and or eligible for any state or federal aid, you qualify. They made it very wide to begin with. This program went live in May, and quite frankly, we've been able to stand up a very impressive operation in Detroit. One that's so impressive, it has us sitting third in the country on internet signups for this program. And so recently, Brilliant Detroit and a few Comcast lift zones were able to join us on a call with the Federal Communications Commission's executive team. And they were able to actually talk about their process thus far, how they're signing folks up, how our call center is operating through Rock Connections. And that was something where, you know, the FCC is not doing that with every community, but they're doing that in Detroit by the way that we're working and by the way that we're signing up residents. Quite frankly, it's a bit of an anomaly. You don't really see too many cities with the stark digital divide that a lot of our urban cores have. You don't see them doing things at this level. So I know that some of you all might have even received an email about on Monday, some of us larger partners have a larger footprint wanting to sign folks up, or at least us to double down on our efforts there. That is strictly because right now in the historic infrastructure bill that looks to be passing, or actually that did pass recently, there is a permanent subsidy that is attached to that, where they want to permanently be able to support residents who are on their own side of the digital divide. And they're using current subsidy counts from this temporal emergency broadband benefit to then inform this larger work. And so who centered that discussion? Detroit. And so I can't thank Brilliant Detroit enough and the other, you know, ecosystem partners for the way that they're leaning in. And obviously the one in the middle that I am not forgetting to mention, Empowering Digital Detroit. That campaign kicked off on Earth Day this year with Human IT. You know, they've been able to do a fantastic job of mobilizing city council members as well as residents and businesses to be able to donate their electronic waste or e-waste to this cause. And pretty much what e-waste is, for those who are unaware, that is all of your outdated servers, switchboards, computers, laptops, anything that you can think of, all of that at its end of life. Instead of it getting sent to landfills, we're diverting it from landfills and being able to sustainably take that technology and refurbish what we can and redistribute it to residents and community organizations. The reason why that's very important is because currently we don't really have an e-waste policy, so to speak, that's been created. And through this work, we are now able to then begin articulating what that could look like. And so for those folks who are on the Policy Advocacy and Ecosystem Committee, this is central to that work. But again, the Empowering Digital Detroit campaign kicked off for Earth Day, and it's going to be concluding first week of October, which is Digital Inclusion Week, which is also on the agenda as well. So I'm going to actually stop talking now because I've talked for about 20 minutes now. I'm going to turn this over to Jamie Danzig, and she's going to explain a little bit more about the structure and responsibilities for Joint Assembly members.
All right, thanks, Josh. I will try and be as succinct as possible. Team, feel free to weigh in if I do miss anything. We can go to the next slide though. To discuss really our joint assembly structure and responsibilities. So we're really just going to cover really our governance overview, the kind of composition, which we kind of just did a full welcome and introduction, so you can get a sense of who your joint assembly members are, but we'll just do a quick recap. To really discuss the purpose of why we're here, why we form the joint assembly, what our responsibilities are, and how we actually review recommendations as they come in. You can go to the next slide. All right, so here's the government structure. And so what you can see is that we've got all of our subcommittees there listed at the bottom. And so we will review the actual process of reviewing recommendations as they come in. But as those are presented, the management team will disseminate those requests to the various subcommittees to review, conduct research, and form up recommendations that go to the community council for review, consideration, and feedback on those recommendations, to which end the committee leads ask that organization to complete further information into the United Way portal to really flesh out the details that would need to be compiled for a soft grant agreement that would then go to either the joint assembly and or the board, depending on the scale of the financial request. And so really that decision-making process runs through the full gamut of our governance structure, such that everybody has their eyes on proposed ideas and ideas that both our committees and the community council are certainly hoping to move forward with. So we can go to the next slide. Here's really the composition. So we've got our appointed members from the board of directors. You can see names listed. I don't think I need to cover them all, but these are folk that are a part of the joint assembly that can certainly be appointed to join in on the board meeting as such, as board members may not be able to attend. So we've got our board of director appointees, community council representatives. Thank you to everyone for making it today. And then both Josh and myself as liaisons to the management team, but certainly as Josh being our chief advocate as City of Detroit Director of Digital Inclusion. So this is the composition of the Joint Assembly. I'll just do a quick pause in case we missed anybody or in case anybody has questions on the composition. All right, let's keep it moving. So why are we here? The purpose of the Joint Assembly is really to coordinate the governance of the Connect 313 initiative in its totality, to review recommendations as they come in, and sending recommendations back to the committees as needed for adjustments to proposals, as we maybe have questions, digging deeper around research, to further inform those recommendations, which may go back to the Joint Assembly if questions do arise. And then part of that commitment as a part of the Joint Assembly is to make final decisions about those recommendations that really will fall within the authority of the Joint Assembly, which is a $50,000 threshold. So if recommendations are above $50,000 or requests rather are upwards of $50,000, those decisions go to the board of directors, but to which end requests come in for consideration, recommendations from both our committees and the community council under $50,000. Those go to here, the Joint Assembly, for us to discuss and make final determination and recommendations for funding. So really anything underneath that $50,000 threshold comes here to the Joint Assembly for final decisions. Next slide, please. All right, so responsibilities really just include making those final decisions on recommendations under that $50,000 threshold, participating in strategic development conversations to support strategy partners that are on the board of directors, annual review of structure and governance and continuous improvement processes based on performance and goals, ongoing review of work stream reports and processes to ensure that the work is well coordinated, which really also includes reporting to the board of directors on a quarterly basis and the uses of our standard agendas, note-taking, reporting templates to ensure that we are all aligned moving forward. And I did previously talk through the process flow for review of suggestions that are coming into the portal. So as just another very brief walkthrough before I hand it over for questions, is really a community member will submit for review and consideration. The management team designates a committee and a committee lead to review with the committee on a monthly basis. That then goes to a committee vote. Upon further determination of evaluation and research, the committee vote then goes to the council for feedback, the community council. And we're here, it says draft grant agreement. This really means that after feedback is provided by the council lead, the committee lead rather, will respond back to the organization that submitted the request to ask for further details, metrics, and information that will help inform the recommendation that will be submitted to either the Joint Assembly for final review and determination. So that's right there where you see that draft grant agreement. It's really the formation of additional details that the organization will provide in the United Way grant portal for the Joint Assembly to then review in its fullest form. And I think that's really all that I was covering here today, but want to turn it over to the group for questions.
Also, again, feel free to drop questions in the chat and we can address throughout the meeting today. If anybody would prefer to put them in writing.
We can take a pause, but if there aren't questions, then I think I'll hand it over to you, Jordan, for the Joint Assembly Charter.
Sounds great. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat at any time. But this is actually our very first activity as the Joint Assembly today. We will be actually reviewing the Joint Assembly charter and voting. So you get to make your first decision as a group here. So the beginning of this is taking a look at the Joint Assembly charter draft, and that was actually emailed out previous to this meeting. So everybody, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, no worries, because essentially what Jamie just went over is the charter. We broke out, kind of the purpose of the committee to really kind of coordinate all the governance of the initiative and to review all of the recommendations, that are coming in that you guys would be able to vote on, and really reviewing those recommendations, taking a vote on everything that requires approval right up to that 50K mark. If it's 50K plus 1, then it does go to the board of directors to make that final decision, and just kind of provide some ongoing review of the work streams that Connect 313 is undertaking. So we'll have a regular report out during these Joint Assembly meetings prior to any votes, as we did today. The Joint Assembly is also in charge of setting kind of our annual review each year. So because this is year 1 and this group is relatively new, we will be kind of proposing how that annual review process will move forward, but this group gets to have the final say on how they want to see that annual review structured. We did take a look at the composition of the group, where it is half people appointed by the board members and half people elected by the community. So that's why the name is the Joint Assembly. It's really the coming together of the two kind of main governance bodies of Connect 313, the Community Council and the Board of Directors. This is where they meet in the middle. We do have some non-voting members, who kind of step in as tiebreakers as needed. And we are looking at the potential option down the road of adding some youth representatives, because we do want to make sure that we're representing the voices of all Detroiters, not just folks who have jobs in this industry. So we will have meetings every other month, and the meeting cadence is at the end of today's orientation. And we will have some, regular reporting that will take place during these meetings. We'll provide reports prior to the future meetings this year. And really the primary responsibilities of the Joint Assembly is the decision-making on recommendations. So whenever there's a recommendation that has a budget attached to it, and that budget is right up to 50K, that's when it will come to this group to be able to take a vote. And we do have in the slides links to some of these applicable governing documents so that you have an opportunity to review all of those as well. And the reason that I bring up this charter and this voting process is that you actually get your first opportunity to vote today. And so I'm pulling up the voting document here, which again will be linked in the slides, which we will send out after this meeting. And I will also drop that right into the chat so that everyone has access. And oh, of course, Micah, thank you. So we will have this voting form available. It'll be open for 1 week from today. So by close of business on Thursday, the 19th, we are asking that you submit your vote. The first part of this voting document is to review the charter. So that document that was emailed out and that I've just reviewed on the call today, we are asking that you vote to approve that proposed charter document. And the document is also linked in this form. So as a member of the Joint Assembly, you get to ratify our charter. And if you have amendments that you'd like to propose, you are welcome to do so in the comments here or by sending an email to us at info@connect313.org. And we are happy to have a discussion about any changes that the group would like to see, and then we'll bring it back at the next meeting to vote if people have substantial concerns about the things that they see in that document. But my hope is that everyone will take a look at it and love it from the bottom of their hearts and vote to approve it with no changes. That's my dream. So again, we would love for you to get that in by the end of next Thursday. And there is another vote that you'll get to take on this same form that Autumn will be walking through in just a moment, which again, we would like for you to submit the whole form by the end of next Thursday, but it really is just 2 yes or no boxes that you have to click. So I hope that it won't be too heavy of a lift, but those are the primary. Those are the primary parts of our voting process today. And that will allow you to approve the charter as it was presented. I see we have some chats here. Okay, the charter link in the voting form is not working. Cool. We will definitely send updated links to make sure that everyone has access to the documents. And again, those documents were sent out via email prior to the meeting. They were sent out yesterday. So if anybody did not receive that charter document via email, please let me know just to make sure that we're using the right email for you, but we will definitely send it out again. Yes, it is in the Google form. I see a question from David Underwood. Do we have input on recommendations that are greater than 50K before it goes to the board? They will be made available for you to look at. You do not get to vote on them. So it's not like a tiered system where like the Joint Assembly gets to vote and then the board gets to vote. If it's over 50K, only the board gets to vote to approve it. But as you are the committee chairs, and they will still go before the council for feedback. Everyone on this call will have that opportunity to give feedback, same as any council member. So we definitely welcome that feedback and that input. And with that, I will pass it over to Autumn to talk a little bit about our second recommendation, Digital Inclusion Week.
Thank you, Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Autumn Evans. I'm the Deputy Director, and then I also manage the Policy, Advocacy, and Ecosystem workflow within Connect 313. Next slide. Within Policy, Advocacy, and Ecosystems Charter, they are mandated to help plan Digital Inclusion Week. So Digital Inclusion Week is from October 4th through the 7th under the leadership of Ms. Jillian Blackwell. We have come up with a great week of programs for all of our stakeholders with an intense focus on community involvement this year. So in previous years, the goals included celebrate, educate, and activate. And this year we wanted to add connect as a key theme. Yes, thank you, Jillian. So that connect is very important for this cohort of committee members. They wanted to make sure that residents were connected, practitioners were connected, businesses are connected, so that every stakeholder feels like they have a piece within Digital Inclusion Week. So over the last few weeks, we have come up with a preliminary budget that is hovering around $38,000, and that includes 4 full days of events. You can go to the next slide. I can, yeah. So that Monday, it's very heavy on policy and leadership. Day 2, we're looking at connecting businesses to technical resources and online resources. Day 3 is very much so that community oriented day. Day 4, we're looking at a youth exploration in STEM featuring other local organizations. For this year, we're looking at a virtual event only, with the other days having in-person events. At this point, it's been a moving target. If anyone is doing event planning right now, I feel really bad for you, and I hope you feel bad for me, trying to figure out how to navigate this Delta variant that's sweeping through. So understanding that we are trying our best to be conscious of the health of our residents while also acknowledging the desire of the committee to have an in-person stake within Digital Inclusion Week. Next slide. So this is a high level budget, and I'm sorry that the numbers aren't matching. So the total is 40,267, which is why it's at this level for a vote. And TechTown will be our host for day one, including our reception sponsor. They'll help with the planning for that. The other two events, the Connected Business and the Connected Community events, will happen at Focus Hope. And then the youth engagement will be held by Avail Consulting Company. There will be some design thinking facilitation within there. We want to make sure that people are well fed. Marketing is very muted. We're looking at more so signage and doing some QRS programming. So where we can save money, we want to. So this is the budget right now. We also want to open up the but implementation to community partners, where if anyone in the community wants to host their own Digital Inclusion Week activity, we can market on their behalf on Connect 313's website. And if they do that, then they'll receive some marketing materials such as, a yard sign or some kind of banner to show that they are part of the Connect 313 Digital Inclusion Week. And Jillian, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Did you want to unmute and say anything else about Digital Inclusion Week? I know this has been our baby the last few months, so I wanted to give you the floor if you wanted
No, I would just say I love the analogy that you use. This has been our baby, so we've been carrying it around for a while, actually in our tummy, and we're ready to deliver. And so we're excited about this day. All of us have had our heads down and our hands on connecting with each other to try to understand and make sure we had a full, impactful week. And so certainly we're excited about what we're planning for the week, and partnering with the different organizations will help us execute on this. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Jillian. Just on the logistics side, how we would like to do this, and you may see an indirect feed to TechTown. They'll be the fiduciary for this event. That way we can make sure that things are streamlined, and they'll act as an event planner with me, which I am very much so glad to have. So yeah, that's it for Digital Inclusion Week. Are there any questions? I know before there were questions around sponsorships. How were program partners chosen for space and prices negotiated? So a lot of it came out of the subcommittee, which is right now Policy Advocacy and Ecosystem. So we did a lot of calling around. We reached out to Marygrove, reached out to Durfee. A lot of our spaces are not open. So that's a big thing about, pricing. It's based off of availability. And then also who is the expert in that space. So for that youth engagement piece, that was very much so hey, who's in digital inclusion space, who's good with youth, who's already doing this type of work. So really out of the policy advocacy and ecosystem and their networks of people, that's where that came from. All right, if there are no more questions, that's all I have, Jordan.
Yeah, so just a review that the proposed budget for Digital Inclusion Week is also part of that voting form. So there will be a space within that form to add any additional comments or thoughts so that you're able to share if you do have any other questions or concerns. And again, always reach us at info@connect313.org if you would like to reach out about potential sponsorships or potential other alternative host sites or anything that your heart desires to share with us about Digital Inclusion Week or any upcoming events that your organization might be hosting that you want to share out to the Connect 313 network. We would love to hear about all of those things. But we do ask that you get that vote in over the course of the next week so that we are able to get this budget approved and get all of these different events going through Digital Inclusion Week, because October sounds far away, but it's really not. So we really appreciate everyone getting those votes in, so we're able to move this forward. And with that, I believe Josh is closing us out, but we just wanted to review these upcoming meeting dates. There will be calendar invites going out just so that you have holds on your calendar for all of these meetings from info@connect313.org. We had our orientation today, which we tried to keep at an hour, and I believe we are, well, look at that, we are definitely on track with that today. But we are asking that you hold a little bit of extra time on the 14th, October 14th and December 2nd, because we are hoping to have more recommendations for you to review during that time. And we like to hold a little bit of space for people to have discussions if they would like to, ask more questions about the recommendations that are being presented. You will, at those meetings, again, have a week to get your votes in. So there's no pressure to do it live during the meeting. But we do ask that you hold 90 minutes for those calls. And if we don't use all the time, you get time back. And that's always exciting. I love when a meeting ends early. And you do have the links to those relevant documents and resources that were mentioned earlier in the meeting. We have the guiding principles, we have that governance structure again, we have another link to the charter, which we are asking you to ratify. We have a more in-depth version of that process flow document if you are interested in seeing a little bit more about how that decision-making process works before it comes to the Joint Assembly and then afterwards. And then we have those calendars of upcoming dates. So Josh, you ready to close this out? And we do get to end a little bit early, which is so exciting.
No, I think that just, again, am probably sound like a broken record telling everybody thank you for all the work that's been going on. One, thank you obviously for the time that you all spent in coming here today, as well as the time commitment moving forward on voting on these recommendations. I can't stress that enough. Also, special thanks to our committee leads. I know that work is not easy, and I'm just really appreciative. I think that I can speak for all of us on the Connect313 leadership side that we're appreciative of the way that our community has been operating. And as we move forward in this committee process, I just want to keep planting the seed that if there is something that you don't see, we want to make sure that your voice is heard. We want to make sure that if there is a snag in the process or something that doesn't quite make sense to you or from someone else, like, you all don't have to keep that there. Like, please, like, speak to us in a way that we can implement these changes. As Jamie had alluded to, we do have this space within the Joint Assembly and actually every single body within Connect313 to do those annual reviews. So we want to make sure that we're collecting that feedback to make sure that even at some of the concerns that you all have had this year, we can implement those so that way next year we're better, then the following year we're better, to keep us on track for 2024. A special shout out and thanks to Jillian and Autumn on the Policy Advocacy and Ecosystem Committee. That's just been fantastic work to see. The reason why that's fantastic, for those of you who remember 2019, when I had tried to plan Digital Inclusion Week by myself, that was not easy. It was awful. And so I want to thank everybody, one, who showed up for that, and two, just to see the way that this has grown has been phenomenal. Digital Inclusion Week is a national endeavor. Every single one of your communities, they are doing this, at least your communities who are having a stake in bridging the digital divide. And, I think that the way that we're doing this here, we're not really looking for folks to tell us what to do. We have the answers in our community, and it's great to see that this body is built to do exactly that. So again, thank you for that. And, please vote. Please, I can't stress that part enough. We want to make sure that voice is being heard. We want to make sure that transparency and a transparent democratic process is something that we can honor and replicate. If Digital Inclusion Week does not tickle your fancy, that is perfectly fine. But at some point, I hope one recommendation will, and we'll be able to have that track record of folks being engaged at this level. I want to give you back your 12 to 10 minutes or so, but I can't stress enough. Thank you, everybody who's put this together, and for folks who were on this call, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.